Hello everybody, we're going to carry on our short series on learning to program through Golang. I think it's a great language and I think there's some good things. Hopefully you'll have seen the last episode to this where we did this and I set you a challenge. The challenge was to add to this a function. The function you were going to add is going to be a say goodbye to someone. So I'm just going to show you how I would do that. And I think I asked as well for you to do something with a number as well. So we'll do a func say goodbye. And again, we'll take a name. So the first thing that will come to us in the brackets will be the name of the person, and that will be a string. And the second thing we're going to take will be how long until we see them. And so I'll call that next C, and I'll make that an int. What I've done there is a common habit in some programmers' way of thinking is to write the first word lowercase and then to make a capital letter for the next word. Gets rid of spaces rather tidily. It's nicknamed camel case. I actually don't know if that's a good popular thing in Golang, but I find that easy to read. So inside this we are going to need to print our goodbye to the person. Now, I'm not going to bother with the variable this time because we can always just do a very simple format dot printf, just like we did before. And this time we'll make our string ready. It's goodbye to, and I may not have told you this. You could have done this the other way using just a straightforward print line of your greeting or print line of whatever with hello goodbye to plus name. I'm actually going to do it here with a %s in the middle of this. I hope to see you in, and then it's next C. So %d for a number, space days. That way this is relatively easy to read. We're just using that one function, and at the end of this we can put comma, and our first thing we want to write is the name, N-A-M-E, and the next thing we're going to put in is the number of days, which is next C. Again, this is using the same function as before, and this should work. So if we then say, well, say good, get rid of this. I don't think we really needed that print line s anyway, so get rid of that. Say goodbye, and we'll say that to Roz, who we will probably see in maybe 5 days. And if I save this over here, I'm running, I've got my window open for showing these things. So say goodbye to Roz. So if I hit run, go run main.go, which is the name of the program as it was last week. Here we go. Command line arguments. Oh, here we go. Main 22 s is declared and not used. Here's another thing. Golang likes us to know to use every variable we declare. Oh, when I did that print goodbye, I actually don't need that message goodbye anymore. That was for a different thing, because now we've written a function called say goodbye. So get rid of that. This is Golang being super pedantic, and it's actually quite handy because there's no point in making a variable if you're never going to use it. So now if we run this, shouldn't complain. Hello to Dave, we met 30 years ago. Hello to Roz, we met 8 years ago. Goodbye to Roz, I hope to see you in 5 days. Can you see how name first went from here, Roz, became name over here, and 5 became next C when the function was called. And then this string was put together, and the %s then became name, which came from here. And then the %d, which was the next one, became next C, which was a number. And then these got fitted into that string, and that's when the program ended. This actually needs a new line. If we called the function again, it would have put the next one on the same line. And that was all we needed to do to complete last week. This week, I want us to be able to ask a question, because often a program will need to be able to ask something of the user, and most of the things we're going to do will involve asking the user some question or another. The method we're going to use also belongs to the package called format, which someone else has made, or fumped, as you'll hear people refer to it. And this is a function called scan. And there's a couple of options, but I'm just going to use scanf because that gives us a bit of control as to what we can expect. And it follows a fairly similar pattern to printf. First you give a format, and then you give the variables where you want to take it out. And normally that's just one variable, but sometimes you might want 2 or 3 pieces of data. Fumped is very good at saying, okay, you wanted a one of these, and a one of those, and I'm going to put them here, here, and here, just like you asked for. But unlike printf, sometimes people don't give you the answers you want. So if I say to you, how old are you? And you say to me, hello, how do I respond to that? Fumped has a way of handling that. We're not going to worry about it too much, but basically it just gives an answer of error. But first let's use fumped to read some stuff. So I'm going to get rid of these function calls for now. And we'll ask some questions. So the first question we want to ask is, hello, what is your name? So we're going to need a place to put that name. Var is short for variable, and we'll call this variable username. That's a fairly safe name, right? And username is going to be a string. That's a bunch of letters together, a string, just as it has been. And then we're going to read fumped.scanf, and what we're going to scan, well, it's going to look like this. %s, s for string, just like I used here in printf. And then I think we'll put a new line on. I'm not certain whether we need the new line. I might not bother with the new line, and we'll see what we get. I think the scanf is happy to finish with a new line anyway. Comma, and then we put username. However, when you send a parameter to a function, this gets passed as what it's holding. So the new function doesn't know that what it was called in the old function. So if we sent this to a function like greet somebody, and we change that string inside this function, this function back here, username, wouldn't change, and we need to change username. And the way scanf actually works is it takes a pointer. So where in memory is this username stored, and then when it changes it there. A little bit strange, but if you want to give the location in memory of your thing instead of the contents of a variable, you put an and in front of it. This is a little bit weird, and some languages you never need to do this and they're very tidy, but I quite like having the choice in Golang of whether I send by pointer, like by reference, where is it in memory, or if I just want to send the information without it being changed. That's something that Golang gives you a choice over. Although in this case the function chooses. The function says I need to know where I'm putting this answer. Now this will return an error, but we're not going to worry about the error. Actually, we're not going to worry about the error or the number of arguments this time, because it should be pretty safe. And in theory, if someone has told us their name, we can then greet them, right? We've got a function called greet them. So if we do greet someone and we give that name to them, so that's username, and this time it's not a pointer because we don't take a pointer in this function. We just take the string. This won't change in this function. And then we'll just make up a number. It's probably not going to be true, but we'll ask about numbers in a minute. So save this, and if I hit run over here in the command prompt, which hopefully we remember how to load up from last time we did this, we should get an error, because of course we get an error. Greet someone using, I've given a string. If you put a number in quotes, that will treat it as the letter 6 as opposed to the number 6. There is a difference. 6, the number, is stored in binary as a series of ones and zeros. It's actually 110, or several zeros followed by a 110. But 6, the letter, is actually stored as a single character, and that's completely different. In fact, this will be stored, and so I only want to send the number 6, not the string with the letter 6. So I save this, hit run, and hopefully it won't complain this time. Aha! You see this flashing line here? It's not asked me my name, it's just saying type something. So if I type something here, hello, you go, hello to hello, we met 6 years ago. So can you see what's happened? And we'll fix it. The first thing it's done is it's declared a variable, and then it's scanned for a word, and what it's done is it said, I want to put the whole thing that I get into the variable called username. So username then becomes what I typed. We then send username to the function greet someone, so name now becomes whatever was in username. 6 goes to met, and then when it comes and prints, the greeting string then becomes to hello to name, whatever was in name. In this case it was hello because I did something silly. Then we print that hello to name, and then we write we met however many years ago it was, and that was 6 because that's what we wrote here. We can make this better. We've got some information from the user, and that's what we wanted. So, but first we're going to make this as a question because it's helpful to make a question. So fmt.printf, and we're going to ask, what is your name? Question mark, new line, and if we give them a little place to put stuff, then it makes it clear that this is where they're going to write. So that's a new line, and then that's there, and actually we don't have any things to add, but I'm happy with that format, so we'll save that, and if we run the program again, we should get asked a question first. And the first thing it says, what is your name? And it's giving me that little pointy thing as a place to type. If you were thinking, like, I'm sure some of you thinking you're going to do programming thought, oh, how do I make a button? How do I do stuff? I'm afraid that kind of stuff will come later. I've not actually seen buttons working in Golang, but Golang is very good working at the back, outputting some nice tidy HTML so that your browser can then show you fancy buttons and all of the rest of it, your Internet Explorer or Firefox. What is your name? Oh, my name is Matt, so I'm just going to write Matt, and then we'll see a result. Hello to Matt, we met 6 years ago, and why is it 6? Well, because of the 6, and Matt got copied in. So we're going to ask age as well now. fmt. Oh, we're going to ask the question first. Printf how. Oh, we was going to do it as when did we meet? How long ago did? How many years ago? Because that's the question, wasn't it? How many years ago did we meet? Question mark. New line, that's a \n, and then a pointy thing to say we're asking a question. And then on the next line we can scan again. fmt.scanf, and this time it's %d because we're taking a number, and we need a place to put that number. That number will be met, right? We can call it met here. One of the things we're going to learn about at some point is scope. If it's called met here, it's a completely different met to the met that's in here. So when we send it as a parameter, they're not thinking they got the same variable, because the variable, any variable in here, username, for example, cannot be accessed in here, in this function or in this function. Only inside the function or inside the scope, inside the squiggly braces where it was declared. So any variables, if I declare a variable here, that could be accessed inside main, say goodbye, or in greet someone. But if I declare it inside a function, it can only be accessed inside that function. That's called scope. But you can send it to another function, and then it will take on the name that it's been given here. So I'm actually not going to call it met. I'm going to call it there we met, and that is an int. And again, as I'm scanning an int, I'm going to put comma, and remember it's an and to say we need the address where we're putting this in. Where in memory is we met stored? And then we met. And then we can now use the int, which is we met. Int is all just any kind of integer, right? Any integer, although there is a limit. I think 32 bits goes to about 10 decimal digits, more or less. So you can't go super long numbers. But, I mean, how old do we get? We don't get up to ages in that range. So if I just put we met here, and then run the program. Control S. And hit run. So I'm just pushing up to bring up the last command I run. So, what is your name? Matt. Hello to Matt. We met 0 years ago. Did I forget to save that? Something went wrong there. I'm going to save this and see if it comes up with the same mistake again. What is your name? Matt. Aha! This may be the new line thing that I was thinking of. It probably needs that new line here. And that might fix our problem. Let's see. Let's see if that fixes our problem. If it does, I can probably explain it. What is your name? Matt. How many years ago did we meet? Maybe we met 4 years ago. Hello to Matt. We met 4 years ago. Perfect. So, when it was scanning, it didn't really have anything to stop on. It was expecting a number, and it probably tried to scan it here, and when it got the new line, it thought it was there. There was still more available to scan. The new line then says we have a separator. So it will scan up to the new line and then finish, and that allowed us to look for the next thing. Tell you what, here's a challenge for you. We're not going to do errors this time. We're just going to assume people put in the numbers. If I do run it now and don't put in a number, so what is your name? My name is Matt. And then I answer, how many years ago did we meet? I write poo instead. Hello to Matt, we met 0 years ago. It couldn't fill a number in, so it just guessed and carried on. But you actually want to handle that. Say, maybe we'll ask for something else. We'll worry about that next week. The thing I want you to do is I want you to add a little thing that says, how long ago, when will I see you next? And then, after you've asked all 3 questions, I want you to say goodbye to them using the say goodbye function that we've written. That's a challenge for next week. Next week we're going to make a game. It's going to be a very simple game when you play higher lower. and we're going to be asking for lots and lots of numbers as we make that game. But I've given you a challenge to do. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next week.